family and pets. She made this murder pact with another 12-year-old girl from Lufkin, Texas. The plan was that after the killings, Emma was going to drive to pick up the other 12-year-old and they were going to drive to Georgia together. On September 20th of 2022, Emma had shot her father in the abdomen at their home in Poolville, Texas, which is about 30 miles from Fort Worth. Emma was about to take the family car when she ended up shooting herself in the head and she died in the hospital 2 days later. Emma's father was released from the hospital and he has made a full recovery. The district attorney office has confirmed that the second girl, who has not been identified, has been charged with conspiracy to commit murder.
A 16-year-old has been killed after an argument over McDonald's sweet and sour sauce. On the 27th of August, police responded to a call of a 16-year-old girl being treated in hospital for stab wounds. The teenager, Naima Ligon from Maryland, then sadly passed away from her injuries. It's believed that the fatal stabbing took place outside of a McDonald's in Washington, D.C. A detective announced that the stabbing occurred after a dispute over sweet and sour sauce between 3 girls outside of the restaurant. It's believed that they were all part of a group that had been to a party previously. Naima and another girl had apparently been assaulting the other teenager first, and she didn't appear to fight back. However, when the pair tried to get into a vehicle, it's believed that the other girl came at Naima with a knife. The girl was charged with second-degree murder, and they have found the murder weapon.
Imagine being licked by your dog and then losing all your limbs. That's exactly what happened to 54-year-old Marie Trainer when her dog licked her, and as a result, she had to get her arms and legs amputated. This all happened 4 days after she came back from the Caribbean. She began feeling sick, and at first she thought it was just the flu, but she was then rushed to the hospital when she noticed her arms and legs were turning black. Marie was then put in a 10-day coma, and it was discovered that she had an infection called capnocytophaga, which is a bacteria commonly found in dog saliva. So it's believed that Marie scratched herself on vacation, and when she came back home, her dog licked the scratch and infected her with the bacteria. Doctors say that this bacteria can be transmitted through a bite or sometimes just contact with saliva.
This is the scariest story about the lunch lady. There was a lunch lady named Judy, and everybody in school loved her. But they loved her food even more. Every single day they would rush to the lunchroom just to eat her delicious food, but one day a boy in 7th grade noticed something strange. In the back of the kitchen, he saw a mysterious door he never seen before. And he's been buying lunch for a year straight. He then went to the principal's office and told him what he saw. The principal then made his way down to the lunchroom and asked Judy about the door. She played dumb for a little bit, but eventually showed him. And what he saw inside made him freeze in horror. Inside were multiple children's dead bodies, completely cut up and strung up on the wall. Judy then looked at the principal with a smile on her face and said, "How do you think my food tastes so good?" This is the reason why. Judy was arrested and fired, and is now serving 105 years in prison. But the crazy part is, how did this school allow a lunch lady to kill students and then sell their meat as lunch food?
So I've noticed that whenever there's a cat versus dog debate, the cats always get slandered. Someone has to stand up for these guys, so here's some facts you didn't know about cats. A cat's purr actually has healing powers and can help improve bone density and heal muscles and tendons. Cats share about 95.6% of their DNA with tigers. When cats rub their face on you, they're using scent to mark you as property, which is a little possessive, but cute. If a cat approaches you with its tail straight up and vibrating a little bit, it means it's really happy to see you. Cats actually evolved to be able to talk to us because the only time adult cats ever meow, it's to get a human's attention. They figured out that that's a sound that we respond to, so they basically be out here code switching. Cats can't see color as well as us, and they're low-key nearsighted, which is actually why it's better that your cat learns you through scent and not sight. But cats have much better night vision. Cats never really got domesticated the way dogs, cows, and pigs did. Basically, they liked our vibe, hung out with us, and they started evolving with us. If your cat slowly blinks at you, it means he loves you. Many believe that cats can actually smell out disease like cancer in humans. One actually detected breast cancer in her owner before doctors did, and it ended up saving her life. We don't deserve them either.
Two teenagers accused of killing a retired police chief were seen smirking, laughing, and making obscene hand gestures in court as their trial date was set. 18-year-old Jesus Ayala and 16-year-old Jameer Keys both face charges which include numerous felonies, including murder in relation to the death of 64-year-old Andreas Probst. Probst died after being struck by a car while riding his bicycle down a highway, which police believe was intentionally done by Ayala and Keys in August. The pair have been charged as adults and entered not guilty pleas to multiple felonies, including murder, battery, and grand larceny of an automobile.
The thing that is scarier than this guy's mugshot is the crime that he committed. Hi, my name is Ethan, and trigger warning, this is a dark case. In Woodstock, Illinois, 2009, Kyle Morgan lured a homeless man into his apartment, promising him food, shelter, and something to drink. A few weeks go by and police were actually called to the apartment due to a foul odor. Nothing in this world could have prepared police for what they were about to see. They discovered the homeless man on the floor with 666 carved into his forehead, and with his blood was satanic symbols all over the walls of the apartment. Kyle was later caught in a different state. However, he was a fighter and he tried to outrun police, but in the midst of that, he actually hit two people with his car. He pled guilty but stated that he was mentally ill and received 30 years in prison.
Kids That Kill, Part 1. Meet Maddie Clifton. When she was 8 years old, she went missing in Jacksonville, Florida. The search for Maddie would end a week after she disappeared. This is the boy who killed her, Josh Phillips, who was 14 years old and happened to be her neighbor. He accidentally hit her with a baseball and she started crying. He didn't want to get in trouble, so he decided to take her life to keep her quiet, then hid her body underneath his waterbed. His mom thought his waterbed was leaking, so when she went to check, she ended up finding Maddie's body. On August 26th, the judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and follow for another episode.
Top 3 terrifying animals that existed and you didn't know about. Number 3, the Titanoboa. This prehistoric snake, living approximately 60 million years ago, ranks among the most terrifying creatures known. Reaching lengths of 39 to 49 feet and weighing up to 2,500 pounds, it dominated ecosystems, particularly in South America. Number 2, the Pulmonoscorpius, an ancient scorpion from the Carboniferous period, about 330 million years ago. Measuring up to 2.3 feet long, it surpassed the size of any present-day scorpion. Its formidable appearance likely made it a fearsome predator in its time. Number 1, the Gigantopithecus. As the largest primate to have ever lived, this colossal hominid existed around 100,000 years ago. Standing up to 9.8 feet tall and weighing up to 1,322 pounds, it was an imposing figure, although likely a peaceful herbivore. Factors like climate change and competition with humans contributed to its eventual extinction.
I really wanted to do a video on kids that have committed crazy murders, so here we go. Alright, so first we have Mary Bell. She was only 10 years old when she committed her first murder. In 1968, she strangled a little boy named Martin Brown who was only 4 years old in an abandoned house. Her and her friend Norma then went to a nursery and left notes about their guilt. 3 months later, her and her friend strangled a 3-year-old boy named Brian Howe. Not only that, they returned to the scene later and carved an M in his stomach with a knife, as well as cutting off his hair and genitals. So then in 1993, we have this boy right here named Eric Smith, who was just 13 when he was walking down a sidewalk in New York and bumped into a 4-year-old boy named Derek Robbie. He then lured the boy into the woods, strangled him to death, threw rocks on his head, and sodomized his body with a tree limb. Alright, so now we have Lionel Tate, who was the youngest boy ever to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. He was 13 when he was babysitting 6-year-old Tiffany Unick. He was playing with her for 45 minutes before he called his mom and said she was not breathing because he slammed her against the table and had her in a headlock. Her injuries were ridiculous. Like for part 2.
Yes, they're here!
Where's your daughter? Where's the knife at?
I don't even know what she's doing. I'm so sorry. I'm so
Come here,
sorry.
come here.
I'm so sorry.
We're just gonna put handcuffs on just for now.
Sorry, just be cool.
Where's the knife?
Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I don't know what chest. I'm so fucking sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Please. I'm so sorry. Julie, you better pray to God. I am sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Ariel! Ariel!
These crazy parents held 13 of their children captive
for years. Until one day, the police revealed the couple's evil heart, David Allen Turpin and Louise Ann Turpin, a couple living in suburban Texas, held their 13 children captive for years. Although they appeared to be an ordinary family, they registered their home as a school with the intention of homeschooling their children. On top of that, neighbors still noticed some strange behavior. One neighbor saw them marching in circles through an upstairs window, while another saw the older boys in the family rummaging through trash at night. One night, the Turpins' oldest daughter was seen running frantically down the street. She seemed eager to escape. Unfortunately, the girl was sent home by a neighbor. To add insult to injury, the neighbors saw the girl's malnutrition and dirty appearance and thought she was mentally ill. After this incident, eventually, the Turpin family decided to move to a house in Paris, California. Thankfully, finally, on January 14th, police received a distress call from a 17-year-old girl who claimed she had just escaped from her home, while her siblings were still being held captive, and within minutes, police arrived at her house, where the shocking discovery in the room was truly unbelievable. Follow me in part 2 to find out what happened next.
Things humans were never meant to see. This is one of the scariest videos online. Experiment shows how intense radiation heat leaves behind a shadow. Days later he died, but doctors said it wasn't from this experiment.
In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle.
This father murdered his 3 sons in their home in Ohio. Just last Thursday, on June 15th at 4:15 p.m., a woman called police, screaming and telling them that her babies had just been shot. Just a few minutes later, police received another call from a man who was walking by the home and said that a girl had run up to him and told him that her father was killing everyone. On this day, 32-year-old Chad Dorman lined his 3 sons in his backyard and executed them one by one. These beautiful kids were ages 3, 4, and 7, and apparently one of them had tried to run away, and their father ran after him, dragged him back to the backyard, and took his life. The mother of the 3 boys was shot in the hand while she tried to protect them, but she did survive. Chad confessed that he planned this out for several months, but the weird thing is that he changed his profile picture to his sons on Facebook, and he also uploaded a photo with them only a few days earlier. Chad has been charged with aggravated murder, and his bond has been set to $20 million.
A chapter closes in the tragic case of a grandfather who accidentally dropped his granddaughter off a cruise ship. Salvatore Anello has decided to enter a guilty plea to negligent homicide in the death of 18-month-old Chloe Weigand. Last July, she fell from the 11th floor of a Royal Caribbean's Freedom of the Seas cruise ship docked in Puerto Rico.
The deal is that he gets no jail time, that he serves a period of probation, that he's able to serve the probation in Indiana at home as opposed to doing it in Puerto Rico.
It's been a heartbreaking saga. Anello claimed that he held Chloe up to a window to bang on the glass, not realizing that the window was open. She slipped out of his hands. This is surveillance video showing Anello walking toward the window with little Chloe. You see him lift her over the rail. The next moment, she is gone.
The family's not doing well. You know, this was such a terrible tragedy from moment one. And the gravity of it, I think, was only compounded by the fact that these charges were brought against him.
In a statement explaining his guilty plea, Anello says, "I wasn't drinking and I wasn't dangling her out of a window. I just wanted to knock on the glass with her as we did together so many times before. I was just so horribly wrong about our surroundings."
A 6-year-old boy went missing, but when rescuers found him, they were shocked at what they found around him. A 6-year-old boy named Caden Leach went missing while playing outside alone. And even though his parents had never restricted him from playing outside, they were very worried when it was dark and Caden had not returned. They checked inside the house, and after searching for 15 minutes, they still couldn't find him. Fearing for their son's safety, they contacted the local police station and reported the situation. The next day, more than 100 local volunteers joined the search effort and launched a search operation in the forest behind Caden's house. Thankfully, at around 3:30 p.m., the search team found Caden, fortunately unharmed. But then a small object was found lying beside him, and after a closer examination, they were stunned by what they saw. Follow me in part 2 to find out what happened next.
Is this a case of possession? This photo was taken in 1961 at a dinner party. Let's enhance it with sharp AI. The two women reportedly said the nun had been acting strange all night and had kept staring at the painting above their heads. The two women look perfectly normal in the photo, but the nun, her face looks distorted. Her eyes are empty, and yet she's staring at the camera. But after that night, the women sold the house, as unexplainable things had started to happen, and the nun was never seen again.
Don't ever try this. To do this curse, you first have to write down the name of your crush or someone you love on a piece of paper. Now pour some water into a bowl. Now gently place the piece of paper into the bowl with the name facing up. With your hands over the bowl of water, chant, "Come to me, only my heart can see thee," 3 times. Come to me, for only my heart can see thee. This part is very important. With your eyes closed, place your hands into the bowl of water and lift up the paper. Now open your eyes and say your crush's name out loud. Tom. When you look at the paper, if the name is still visible, your crush will immediately start paying attention to you. However, if the name is not visible on the paper, your crush will forever hate you. Are you brave enough to try this? Then heart this video and follow my account.
I think one of my favorite animal facts, I'm talking like of all time, is that humpback whales have been so generationally traumatized by orcas that now they go out of their way to be petty. As in, if Oreo ops have 0 haters, it's cause humpbacks went extinct. So basically, orcas hunt by separating the weak or young whale from the rest of its pod and then chasing them into exhaustion like wolves but in water. Which is why the humpback community will stand up to the orcas by mobbing them. And they're not above using barnacle brass knuckles to make the bar-coded sea assaults act right. Except humpbacks have so much hatred for orcas that they'll purposely try to interfere with their hunts and rescue whatever animal the homicidal giga dolphins were after, even if the target wasn't one of their own kind. Humpback whales have been recorded rescuing seals, sunfish, and even whales from other species from becoming orca protein. For a while, we just thought humpbacks were the guardian angels of the ocean, which they probably are, but you also can't tell me this isn't just a massive middle finger to orcas. And all it takes is hearing the sounds of an orca hunt in progress for the humpbacks to take it personally. There was even a case where 2 humpbacks stopped a pack of orcas from attacking a gray whale calf and proceeded to harass them for 6 hours straight. Nah, cause like they really said, you ain't eating nothing tonight but disappointment, good buddy. And that's on pod, get it? Cause like a group of whales is called it. Anyway, moral of the story, if petty was a sport, humpbacks would be D1 from day one.
These are human body parts that may disappear in the future. First up is body hair. Originally, it protected ancient humans from harsh weather conditions. However, over time, with modern clothes and changes in environmental conditions, human body hair has significantly decreased and continues to do so. Many scientists believe it might eventually completely disappear. Next are wisdom teeth. They used to serve an evolutionary purpose for ancient humans who had much rougher diets and needed more chewing power. But our diets have softened and our jaws have become increasingly smaller. As a result, they have no space to properly grow in, and many people need to have them surgically removed. Many babies are now being born without wisdom teeth, and scientists believe this will eventually be the standard. Finally, we have male nipples. Everyone starts as female in the womb, and before the Y chromosome kicks in for males, nipples have already formed. When the baby becomes male, the prolactin levels decrease, making the male nipples non-functional. So while it's debated, some scientists think they'll disappear.
3 years ago, a video was uploaded to TikTok with a caption that simply read, "Do you see it?" This video was taken from a home that sits across from an abandoned church, and the woman who uploaded it said that one day she noticed a man pacing back and forth just a few feet away from the church's parking lot. At first she thought nothing of it, but what she didn't know was that for the next several weeks of her life, this simple curiosity would turn into an all-consuming obsession. After a few hours of this man pacing back and forth, her and her husband definitely thought it was odd, but when they saw him the next day, they actually became concerned, thinking it could have been a senior citizen who was lost and confused. So they went to go see if the man needed help. And as they came up on the site, this is when things began to turn from an innocent curiosity into something that would keep them up for nights. In her videos, the woman claimed that the first time they approached the pacing man, he was suddenly nowhere to be seen, and every time since then, when they try to approach, the same thing happens.
Is anybody there? I'm so nervous. What was that? Do you need help?
You can see the full clips along with 4 other equally terrifying videos on my latest YouTube video titled The Pacing Man.
Taking your phone and then putting your hand over your mouth is dirtier than drinking toilet water. Here are some interesting facts you need to know. The last one will shock you. Someone pretends to be your friend, but in reality, cannot stand you. It's the 4th person who appears when you click on share and then on more. Strangely, although we constantly use our phones, we never see them in our dreams, even if we always have them in hand. Comment, "I dream of," and let your autocorrect finish the sentence. Did you know that mosquitoes, because of the diseases they transmit, have caused more deaths than all wars combined? When you can't get a song out of your head, maybe a spirit is trying to send you a message through it. Broccoli contains more vitamin C than oranges, which means you could fight a cold with broccoli soup rather than orange juice. Tsundoku is the act of acquiring books and never reading them. Before revealing the last fact, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything. A man named Walter Summerford was struck by lightning 3 times during his life. After his death, his tombstone was also struck.
This is the 18-year-old hacker who managed to use nothing but an Amazon Fire Stick, a hotel TV, and a phone to leak clips from the new Grand Theft Auto. Arian Kurtaj from Oxford is part of Lapsus, a notorious international cybercrime gang thought to be made up of mostly teenagers that's hacked into big companies like Uber, costing them millions. When Arian, who has autism, hacked into Rockstar Games' services, he was already on bail for hacking into other major companies and living under police protection in a travel lodge. But despite having his laptop confiscated, he still managed to hack into one of the biggest games companies in the world with just an Amazon Fire Stick, a TV, and a phone. He stole 90 clips and messaged Rockstar's internal messaging system, telling them they had 24 hours to get in touch with him before he'd release the game's sort code, which he did with the clips, and he was rearrested. His defense argued that the GTA trailer was still a success and that his hack hadn't caused serious harm, but the judge said that Lapsus had caused real harm to real victims from his other hacks, and that Arian's skills and desire to commit cybercrime meant he was still a high risk to the public, and has now sentenced Arian to live in a secure hospital for life, and he can only come out of hospital if doctors say he's no longer a danger.
So I did a little bit of research regarding Gypsy Rose Blanchard's husband, Ryan Scott Anderson, and I found it to be interesting, so I thought I would share it with y'all. So who exactly is Ryan Scott Anderson? Gypsy met Ryan while she was still in prison. He's from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and he is a middle school special education teacher. Also read that he is a wrestling fan, and that is due to him having a license plate on his car that says The Hitman, and that is in reference to WWE's Bret Hart. It's been said that the reason they even started speaking to each other is because Gypsy wanted to move to Louisiana when she was released from prison, and that is, of course, where he was from, and so that kind of motivated them to talk more. They first started talking in 2020, around the time that COVID really started, and evidently, according to People magazine, Ryan wrote Gypsy first due to somewhat of a bet that he had with a coworker. He worked at a hospital at the time. So a coworker told Ryan that she wanted to write to Tiger King, and he said, well, if you write to Joe Exotic, I'll write to Gypsy Rose Blanchard. He also stated he didn't expect to really hear from her, but within a few weeks, sure enough, he did. And in May of 2020, they started emailing each other back and forth. And because of the pandemic, they had to wait a year before they were even able to meet each other, but they finally met in July of 2021. Gypsy stated that most of their relationship, of course, was long distance and over the phone, but that they were so close that immediately Ryan could tell what type of mood she was in or what she was feeling as soon as she would answer his phone calls. The two got a marriage license on June 27th of 2022 in Missouri. And of course, as you know, that's where she was serving her time in prison. And she was still serving time at the time they got married. They got married about a month later on July 21st, 2022. And it said they had a small prison ceremony with no guest. And at the time, Ryan was 36 and Gypsy was 30, so that makes them about 6 years apart. She did state to People magazine that she plans to have a redo of a wedding and have a reception and all the fun wedding festivities, so I'm sure we'll hear about that when that happens. He also stated that he is providing her with a loving home and she hopes to eventually start a family with him. She also said that's one of her goals is to have children. She also stated it hurts her feelings that people wonder what type of mother she will be because of what happened to her. She said that she's actually learned from that and that she does have two great mother figures, and that would be her mother-in-law and her stepmother. And as you all know, on Thursday, Ryan did pick Gypsy up to get her after her prison release. Now, Gypsy did get engaged to another man in 2019 named Ken, and that did not work out. But hopefully this marriage will work out, and I wish the best to both of them.